This hangout is live and on the air. Hi, welcome. It's Shira Goldberg coming to you live from Sonoma, California. I have with me someone who's pretty cool. I love social media. That's how I found them. That's how I found me. All of these wonderful connections I get through my various media outlets. So we have Tim Powers. He's a cool dude in his own right. He's actually in a band. So any guy in a band's pretty cool. But he's also a blogger for Sober Nation, SoberNation.com. Now, I am familiar with the two who started Sober Nation, and when I first connected with them, I was like, oh, sounds like a cool little project. Now they have blown up the scene. Everyone and their moms know who they are. And this guy right here in front of us, Tim Powers, is a blogger and a content writer for Sober Nation. So welcome, Tim.
Hello, how are you?
I am really great. It's hot here. Oh, Tim is in La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is fantastic. How's La Crosse?
Have you ever been here before?
I've never been in La Crosse, but I've heard of it. Good school.
Yeah.
Good school. Mm-hmm. University of Wisconsin, La Crosse. Yep, I have heard of it. I actually went to University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. So.
Oh, cool.
Uh-huh.
I live about 2 minutes from the Mississippi River, and there's just bluffs all around where I live. So, I've been here most of my life, so I'm kind of just like, yeah, bluffs, river, trees. But other people are like, wow, man, this is like, I think I was telling you the story before where about a few years ago, this musician that lives down in Arizona came up here for the first time, I think on a solo tour, and we played in a town called Winona, Minnesota, which is about half hour from here up the river road on Highway 61. And that's just like the perfect drive because you got the bluffs on one side and you got the Mississippi River. And he's like, oh, what's that river thing? And it's like, well, that's the Mississippi River. And he was just like, oh. I'm like, yeah, it's Mississippi River, no big deal, so.
River.
Yeah, I get spoiled around here. A lot of people just are, they just kind of marvel at the scenery around here. But, for me, it's just like I grew up around here. So it's just like, yeah, go up the bluffs, no big deal, whatever. So anyway.
Well, yeah, we live in a beautiful Northern California, and we have like the most amazing views. It's so picturesque. I always say I live in a painting or a photograph. So I try not to get too complacent with the beauty around here, although it's easy when it's hitting over 100 degrees, which it is this week. I think it hit 109 if that thermostat at the bank was correct. So that's a little too hot for me, but it is beautiful here. So let's just jump into why we're talking. You are a blogger and a content writer. You're a musician. And I just found out, which is my favorite aspect of your character, as a person, you're a cat lover. Yay! Because I love my kitty.
Yeah, every once in a while that, if you see little black guy skirting around here, that's Theo. So he's kind of a minor celebrity on my Facebook wall. Every once in a while I'll post pictures of my cat. I get a lot of crap for it that I'm a cat guy. And I'll play some shows. I've actually played a couple shows and, hung out, and people come up and like, hey, how's Theo doing? So I think he's going to have his own Facebook page here pretty soon, you know, Theo. So if you see him, he'll be floating around. So
Okay. Yeah, I love my cat, but my cat's old and fat, so you might not see him.
okay.
So you and I had such a great conversation recently, and the reason why I wanted you on the show is just because you're just so real. And I like that in people, being authentic and being true to form. So you started out as just being interested in writing because you were doing various blogs and you're kind of getting some awareness around who you were and what you were writing about, and then you started writing for Sober Nation.
That's
So
right.
that's a pretty cool gig. Sober Nation's pretty huge.
Yeah, I'll just kind of back up when I started. I've always said that I've had, since I was a little kid, two main dreams. One was to play rock and roll, and the other was being a writer. And I'm doing both of that. You know, I'm not headlining Madison Square Garden or, you know, sitting across from Oprah working my promo game for my new bestseller. But, you know, I get to make a living doing both things. So in a way, you know, that's success right there, even though it's not on the grandest stage. You know, it's definitely success. I'm living life on my own terms, which is awesome. But getting to the writing thing, I've always wrote since I could remember. I used to write a lot of poetry when I was a kid. Wrote that was kind of just a natural thing for me. And you know, unfortunately, this thing called alcohol kind of started coming into my life. My story in addiction, I didn't really start drinking until I got into college. Up until probably about age 19, I was the quintessential, you know, good small town kid, you know, no drinking, no drugs, honor student, athlete, you know, ate my vitamins, said my prayers, did all the right things, you know. But I think at that point, you know, even though that I was on the right track, a lot of things, you know, secretly, you know, kind of like, you know, wanting to experiment with alcohol, wanting to experiment with drugs was always kind of the undertow, the undercurrent. And when I went away to college and moved away from home, that's when I started to explore that. And as we all know, addiction is this cunning, baffling, and powerful disease that, you know, slowly starts stealing you, starts taking things from you. And, you know, I hit my rock bottom when I was 33 years old. And a lot of years I kind of forsaken the whole music thing and the writing thing. Then I got clean and sober. About 9 years into my sobriety, I decided, you know, they talk about, I think in the 12th step of any program, that, you know, you have to carry the message forward and, you know, kind of that philosophy. And for me, I thought, well, let me start writing again. So I went to one of those DIY blog sites that maybe 10 people look at, and I started writing a blog. And I thought, you know, okay, you know, a lot of people are not looking at this, and I'm not getting paid or getting rich and famous about it, but it was good as an outlet, as a release.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a little bit after that, I started kind of getting the feelers out there of where I can write, where I can get to more of an audience. And, you know, I forget the treatment center. It's in Florida somewhere. I think it might have been the Palm Beaches, something like that. So sorry if you're watching this and I'm totally not remembering who you are, but I contacted them. So I started writing these little 300-word blogs about recovery and addiction. And, you know, I was getting, you know, it was great. I mean, I wasn't getting paid about it, but that wasn't, you know, getting paid wasn't the objective. It was kind of getting kind of my 2 cents about the whole addiction recovery thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, after a few months of that, you know, it just wasn't, I just, you know, kind of was feeling uninspired. So I kind of started not turning in blogs there. And I was looking online in one of those like online, you know, job posting things, and I saw something about Sober Nation. And I thought, hey, why not? I'll just swing an email to them because I've done it in the past through other sites and I never get a response back. So I thought, well, hey, I'll just throw an email out there and just see, if somebody responds. 2 hours after I sent it, I get an email from Tim Stoddard, who is like the mastermind of Sober Nation.
Mm-hmm.
And we basically had this little short conversation. And he's like, yeah, man, let's, what do you want to write about? Let's start. So that's where I started. I started writing some small articles here and there. And now I come from a, research writing, more of a technical writing thing. But, when you're writing for online audiences, there's a whole other kind of mindset that you have to adopt, SEO writing and writing for keywords. And this is all it was all like Chinese to me. It was, what is this? So it's been kind of a long learning process. But now I've gotten to the point now where I'm a regular contributor to the Sober Nation site. I also write some blogs for some other treatment addiction websites as well. So, my plate's pretty full. And then I got the music thing on top of that. So, life is good. Life is busy, paying it forward in my own way, if you can, to coin a phrase, I guess. So
That's really cool. And I like that you explain the process of how you just became a content writer for Sober Nation. And that's one of the aspects that you and I kind of realized we clicked on, because a lot of people, I was sharing that with you, asked me, how do you get these people on your show? And I was like, well, I asked them, so and these people are way more famous and important in the world, and then you would think, oh, I can't, they're so beyond my reach. And I just don't feel that way. I feel that they're people, and if they want to share their story or inspire others, motivate others, I have to try to reach out. And a lot of people say no, and some people say yeah, and I'm fortunate enough to have people like you say yeah, and we have a show. So the point is, go outside your comfort zone. I always think
it's the whole thing of recovery too. It's
yeah.
I think when you get into recovery, when I first got into recovery, I remember it, it was May 8th, 2003. You get arrested. When I got arrested for my second, OWI, it was right in front of my apartment building. I could walk 10 steps and I could have just been there. But, I got arrested and I had to go, I had to go to the psych ward because I was kind of talking out of my head. And, I say it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And people will say, well, you're crazy. I mean, how could the worst thing in your life be the best thing? It's like, well, let's put it this way. That police officer could have let me go, stumble back to my apartment, and I would have, still been negative 500 in my checking account. In the apartment that I was living at, I was evicted, but I still had the keys and the landlord couldn't find me. So I was kind of sneaking in during the small hours of the day and, kind of taking the back door in. And I would have continued my descent and my free fall. And who knows what could have happened after that. I could have ended up in prison, in a mental institution, or 6 feet under pushing up the daisies. So when I was arrested, I remember telling the police officer, I'm glad that you arrested me because I probably would have ended up killing myself. So obviously when you're saying stuff like that, it's like, okay, guess what? You're going to the psych ward. So
is that why you went?
Yeah, 5 days. And I was on a Chapter 51 hold, which means that, in the state of Wisconsin, and I might be butchering this on a paraphrase it, when you're on a Chapter 51 hold, they're basically saying that you are a danger to yourself or others. So, there's a mandatory 72-hour holding period. But I got arrested on, I think it was on a Thursday. So I had to spend the weekend there. So I ended up spending 5 days.
Yeah, here we call that a 5150.
Yep. So yeah, at that point, it was like the lights came on, whoop, and it was just like, if you ever think back to when you were in college, I certainly can, where there's the house party and you're trashing the house and everything's just a shambles, and all of a sudden somebody's like turns on the lights and you see all the debris and devastation. That's kind of like the way it was like with my soul, just like up, everything is all kind of, it's a big hot mess,
Mm-hmm.
and I just kind of flashed back to that point, May 8th, 2003. And that was kind of the moment where, yeah, it's over. It's over because, or else my life would have been over at that point, because that's where it was going, because my folks were ready to kind of cut the cord and go, bye-bye. Because, that's the thing about addiction. You become like this master manipulator and liar. And it's amazing. You can almost be like an Academy Award winning actor, seriously, because of the acting job that you do, to make people believe that they're the bad ones, that they're not helping you out, and all the energy that you use to create that character. It's amazing when you think about it. When I went to treatment, I had gray hairs. And I'm thinking, why do I have gray hairs in my early 30s? And it was like all the energy expending and all the worry, and like, how am I going to live this front? How am I going to present that everything's all hunky-dory when it ain't?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, all of a sudden it's like, thank God I started losing my hair and I shave it, because if I had, if I didn't, not only would I look like my high school history professor, but it'd be all grayed out. So, the thing about addiction, man, it just takes a lot out of you physically and mentally and psychologically and spiritually and emotionally, and it's the biggest sucker. It's a vampire of the worst sort.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what we were talking about before. I went off on a tangent, so that's kind of whoop, okay.
Oh, that's pretty good. You're keeping it real, man. Just keeping it real. But I tell people I didn't believe in hell until I experienced it for myself.
Oh, it is. Every day when you're an addict, it's like, it's hell. It's hell because, I remember at my lowest point, there was a point where I was unemployed for 1 year. And it wasn't because, the job market was so bad and, I couldn't find a job. It's because, well, gee, I'm out all night getting wasted. I'm waking up at 4:00 in the afternoon and trying to get myself together just enough so I can go to the bar again and, get polluted and, rinse, repeat. It's like the cycle, and you keep going and the wheel keeps getting bigger. And, man, who has time to look for a job and be productive and, be a good citizen of the world when all you're doing is trying to maintain a lie? So, it is, it's hell. You kind of live in it every day, every minute. It's like you don't have a job, you're shitting on everybody, and, you're doing it to yourself too, and you're selling yourself out. And that's kind of like the worst thing about addiction is you're selling your soul.
Mm-hmm.
To your addiction, to the substance of your choosing, and the ritual of that, and it becomes ingrained, so you become a slave to it. And like I said before, it takes pieces of you, and it takes it little by little by little by little, and before you know it, you're kind of like, here are the strings, here's your addiction,
Mm-hmm.
here you go. So yeah, going to the psych ward and then 2 weeks later, going into treatment. Yeah, that was a white knuckle ride, and man, I made it through. So here I am today. still sober, doing my thing. So there you go.
And you have a cool cat.
Mm-hmm. Oh, is he around? Oh, he's not. Okay. I thought you were talking about the other cat.
I was hoping. I mean, he kind of built it up a little bit. We might see him pretty popular on Facebook, and now there's no signs of him. So just, you
know, cats. They just kind of like
putting it out there. I'm just putting it out there.
Come up here and see what's going on. So.
Well, the reason why websites like Sober Nation and bloggers and people on the Facebook pages, and there's so many addiction-related, recovery-related groups. It's just so much information about addiction and recovery, and it's like virtually impossible not to get connected to someone who could introduce you to these resources. And that's one thing we touched on too, about you and I are really interested in not only kind of emulating recovery and being a voice for some people that haven't found it yet, or are struggling, or are just newly in their sobriety, but we're really interested in also showcasing other resources. And I consider you a resource because you're just a regular guy from La Crosse, Wisconsin. I'm just a chick in Sonoma, California, and we, through our own motivation, or I don't know, it's part of our process at least, that we can extend ourselves in a more visible way. So you're a content writer, you're on stage, I do this little addiction show, and it really is a wonderful opportunity to show people that these aren't people that are unreachable. These are people just like us. I mean, we're all very, very connected. And I don't think people realize that initially. So
they don't. And the thing, when I started writing for Sober Nation, I realized, you know, here's this website, and the people that are running it are these young, and they're kind of in their hip, and they kind of approach the whole addiction thing from a slightly different angle. Yeah, you know, I write articles, you know, kind of some hard articles about addiction and about treatment options and recovery, but there's also kind of those personal stories and those personal elements of, you know, that make it real. And when I joined, you know, Sober Nation, they had about 50,000 followers on Facebook, and now it's about 185,000. So, you know, it's exploded. And a lot of people, when we write these blogs and articles, you know, they'll comment on Facebook. And some of them, I remember when I first started writing some of these articles, some of these people would write these really negative things. And I would get really mad about it. It's like, how can you be mad about this? We're trying to have this discussion about sobriety and addiction, and it's supposed to be about, you know, initiating conversation. But then I realized that people, you know, are going to have opinions. They're going to have people who come from a more traditional angle, like the AA angles, that have their take on things, which is formed by, you know, where they're from. But then you have other people that might not have that mentality. And yeah, there's going to be this friction, but that's what, in a way, it's kind of a beauty thing, because it's promoting conversation. Because if you're ever going to destigmatize addiction, you have to bring it out in the open. You can't just have it muted or, you know, shove it in a corner. You have to bring it out in front. And, you know, it's funny because I'm writing this article today because, you know, being a writer, sometimes you go through these periods where you're kind of meh, you know, you're kind of uninspired. And this week I'm trying to write these articles. I'm just trying to, like, oh man, I was kind of running into a roadblock. But then one person, it's funny how you think about it, is sometimes inspiration comes in the weirdest ways. And Bernie Sanders was that person.
Really? I love Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders was in Madison last night, and I watched a stream of his speech, and it was so inspiring for an hour and 45 minutes. It wasn't so much, yeah, you know, his, you know, political platform is very intriguing and it's very kind of interesting, but the way he spoke to people and the way he came from his soul and his passion. That was what resonated with me. And I realized that my next article was right underneath my nose and I didn't see it. It's about, what he's trying to do is he's trying to pay forward. And, I'm writing this whole thing about paying it forward and being passionate in your recovery and trying to find a way to share that with others. It could be doing the addiction show, or it could be writing for Sober Nation. Or I was reading this article about this guy in Australia who, used to be, have a $400 a day coke habit. And now he goes out and cuts the hair of homeless people, try to, help them maybe feel a little bit better about themselves and make them feel more human. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. Or we just had an article we posted, I think it was like a week ago, about a guy from England who ran across the United States, as far as part of his recovery. Mm-hmm. And I thought, man, that's really cool. I mean, it's kind of Forrest Gump, it's kind of like, okay, strange, I'm just running, but it's cool.
Forrest Gump of recovery.
That people find these ways of, like if people get into, recovery, maybe they go to the gym, transform their body, or they get a new haircut, or they get, tattoos, or, whatever their expression is of this new recovering person. And here's a guy that's in Australia that's, going to homeless people and giving them a new look. It's about to me, it's all about showing people love and showing people humanity. And that's, in recovery, that's what it kind of is. You're kind of getting in touch with who you are, because for so many years in your addiction, when you start using substances, it's like you're trying to find a happiness or trying to find a place. But then, it starts overtaking you and you realize that you're kind of, like I said before, you're living a lie. Then when you get into recovery, all those funhouse mirror blinders and filters and garbage are gone. And then you're left there and then you're looking at yourself. And you have to learn to love yourself. And when you do that, as you're growing in your recovery, when you first start in recovery, they say it's like, you have to be selfish. And in a way you have to be, because it's about you. You have to get better. You have to get well. You need the tools to find that. But then once you get that, then you can't be selfish anymore. You have to, share with others in whatever way you can, whether it's, I remember being in college, I went for my second degree back in 2007.
Nice.
And, it's like, okay, I'm going to do that. And what were we talking about? I'm just kind of just going off on a rant here, and I'm just, so.
No, I love it. I love it, man. Just keep it going. It's just how you're sharing it, how you're paying it forward. All of these.
It's go back to school, and when I went back to school, I decided I wanted to maybe intern. There's a place in La Crosse here called Cooley Council on Addictions, which is a nonprofit. They have counselors, they have a drop-in center, they have AANA meetings there. The drop-in center where people who are recovering can go and hang out.
What's it called?
Cooley Council on Addictions.
Okay.
And I learned a lot from that. I learned that, there are some truly kind of, sick people sometimes in the world that they're struggling, and, they're trying to find a way to kind of, make sense of what's in their head and what's around them as a sober person. Because when you are sober, when you first get sober, it's like you are born. It's like you pop out of this womb and everything is bright and you're like nerve, and everything kind of is like, you feel everything. The pain that you feel is more intense. The joy that you feel is more intense. You might get depressed in a more intense fashion. You're trying to deal and navigate the world, and and some people, they can, and some people have struggles with that. And sometimes you see people who are truly still trying to process. And for me, working at Cooley Council on Addictions, I saw that because, I had to, I was running the drop-in center, and you see people down there, and they're walking down there, and sometimes, you smell the alcohol in their breath, or you can tell by the look in their eyes that they're under the influence.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, ugh, come on, but you realize that everybody's story in addiction is different. Everybody's got a different backstory. My backstory might sound like, oh my gosh, you went through all this hell, but there's always somebody out there that has been through 100 times worse than I have.
Yeah.
They've had more pain. So where do I get off saying that, I'm the king of recovery, and here's my and that's another thing about, addiction too. It's like, it makes you feel like you're special. Like the pain that you feel is, the worst pain, and nobody can feel what you feel.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, actually.
I remember going into
I understand. I'm like,
yeah, I remember going into treatment and sitting there, and I'm thinking that, I did all this really crazy, crazy shit, and I did the worst things ever. And then, here's this guy, I just got out of 15 years in federal prison. Hey, I dealt drugs across straight line, so I'm looking at 100 years. And here's this person who was addicted to crack cocaine for 20, and we're going around. It's like, well, gee, I'm not that special,
Yeah.
Well, hey, that's where you really kind of learn kind of the whole humbling experience of recovery, and realizing that, gee, I got to get myself straight here. So, yeah.
It's an amazing transformation, and it's filled with self-discovery, and it's really amazing. Everyone's story, when I hear bits and pieces, it just amazes me. I always think, wow, you could write a book about your life. And I realize we all could.
Yeah, we all could.
But we all won't. And for some of us that are able to share these little tidbits about our past and where we've come from, and how that process helped navigate our journey, like you said, it's really powerful. And you're able to express that and connect with people at a level of understanding, at least by acknowledging, hey, might not know exactly what you've been through, haven't gone through that, but I've gone through my own struggle and my own demons, and here we are now, at this point. I think it's just like this beautiful love story on Broadway. I've never met anyone who's been able to share with me without feeling so a part of their process in such a connected way, and just to see them bloom and start seeing these little clicks going on, and it's just so incredible. I never ever get bored of it.
I don't
babies. It's like I always call them little flowers, and I just love it. And what I really love is when I meet people and they're going through really bad times, and get a little snarky, and then they'll realize it, and next time I see them, they're like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, oh God, I was there. I get it.
I know. It's funny, because being a musician, when I was in treatment, I was a couple months clean, and the band that I was in, we have a big summertime festival called Riverfest, and it's right in the park, right by the river. And the band was asked to play Riverfest, and they said, well, could you possibly play, with us? And I had to talk to my counselor, and I had to talk to everybody at the treatment facility. And it was kind of this back and forth thing. And after much debate, they decided to let me play this thing, so I played it. Didn't have any alcohol backstage or nothing like that. And man, let me tell you something. I sucked. I played like crap. But it was the best. I mean, I honestly, because I didn't touch a bass, you know, in so many months, and even when I did, I was wasted. I didn't really care how, you know, well I played, but that was like the best show ever because it was like the first show I played clean, and there were people there that were part of the musician community that were there because they heard I was going to play, and they were there to support me, and that was kind of that light bulb. Was like, why in the hell did I even get drunk in the first place? So I think at that point I was like, you know, I think I can do this. But after a while, you know, I started playing out again, and you know, there were the, you know, people in 12-step groups that were telling me, you know, well, be careful, you know, because, you know, if you go to the barber enough, you know, you're going to get a haircut, you know, all these sayings. Well, you know, there. But I had hair at the time, but you know what I mean. So I started playing, you know, and people, you know, there are people I joined another band, and, you know, some of the guys didn't know that they knew me only as a person that didn't drink, but they didn't know that I had a previous life, you know, as this rare, you know, roaring drunk. And, you know, people in the community knew that, and the musician community knew that, hey, this guy's sober, and it was cool. And the cool thing was, it's like, you know, it's on me. You know, they can't, you know, they would sometimes people would say, well, if you start drinking again, you know, I'm going to watch. And if you start drinking again, you know, you're going to be in trouble. But, and it's great that people have my back, but I know that I have to have my own back because if I don't make myself accountable, you know, 12 years of sobriety ain't going to mean anything.
Right.
So, I mean, it's weird too, because, you know, I'll play all throughout the upper Midwest, and it's great that the bands I play, and we play festivals, we get to meet other musicians from other parts of the state or other parts of the Midwest. And, you know, they know that, you know, I'm in recovery too, and it's not like this big, huge deal. I mean, I'm not walking around with a big sandwich board, you know, my name is Tim, I'm 12 years clean, and you need to like that.
Now I want to get a sandwich board.
Yeah, let's try it. And, you know, watch the stones fly. Boo! But
all right,
know,
maybe.
I don't make it, to me, it's become like, I know what I am. And know what I am. I'm not going to go and preach to somebody because that's going to be their journey. You know, if they smoke or drink or, you know, shoot up or snort, you know, whatever, that's their journey. And all I can really say is you got to be careful because, I mean, drugs and alcohol, you start getting into that, you start buying into that, and you can fall into a trap. And it, you know, it's not even just addiction. I mean, you get behind the wheel, and in an instant, your life can change, and some other people's lives can change. So there's all these ramifications, and not talking about health and mental health and physical health and spiritual health. You can really do a number on yourself, and anybody can be an addict. Anybody can be an addict. And when I write for Sober Nation, you know, that's kind of what our message is, you know, Sober Nation, we, through sharing of information and treatment resources and writing addiction articles and writing personal articles, we're throwing it out there. And there are going to be some that may not like that because, you know, of whatever, like, you know, it's, you know, anonymous and things like that. And I respect that. But for me, when I was starting off in recovery, I wasn't going to hide from it. I was going to be out with my recovery. Now, I wasn't going to go out there and, you know, start going on, hey, I'm clean and sober and you're not, and, you know, shame on you. It's more of like, you know, despite of what you think about people who are alcoholics or drug addicts, not everybody lives under a bridge. Not everybody, you know, lives this destitute life. They come from all walks of life. You know, like I was telling you, you know, I remember going into recovery and I'm looking around the room, you know, I'm seeing successful business people and housewives and people from all walks of life. And people that are from the outside that don't understand that, it's hard for them to grasp that because they have, their preconceived notions. And yes, there are people who are drug addicts and alcoholics that do live under a bridge or are homeless or, whatever other preconceived notions and stereotypes we have. But really, addiction is everywhere and there's many faces to it. And what Sober Nation is trying to do is trying to bring that, trying to bring it out there. And trying to bring it out there. And let's talk about this, because like I said before, the only way that you are going to ever move forward and kind of minimize or eliminate stigma is bringing it out there.
Right.
Putting it out there, and here it is. So what are you going to do? What are we going to do as a collective society? What are we going to do? Are we going to throw them all in, throw them away, lock the key, see ya. So no, no. Never mind. Okay, now I'm gonna start getting angry, and so I don't want to do that. So we'll kind of end it.
Yeah, we don't want that either. So in our last moment or two, share some parting words of inspiration or hope or whatever is important to leave us with.
Okay. Well, wow, this is kind of hard. I guess from my experience, people, when they first get sober, they think that sobriety is limiting. Oh, I can't do this or I can't do that because, it's not going to be as fun. I'm going to be boring. And sobriety isn't a sentence. It opens up limitless possibilities. If you would have told me 12 years ago that I'd be making a living writing blogs, about, addiction and treatment recovery, no. I was still trying to learn how to live, and trying to wake up and deal with myself, much less think. But, you get the tools.
Much less think.
You get the tools and you get, you start building confidence, because now you're starting to get the real you. You start to embrace the real you, and it's this journey. It's not one of my favorite sayings is, I think it comes from Eastern thought. In 100-mile race, 90 miles is halfway. And that's what recovery is. I mean, we live in this society where we want now. $19.99 a month on a credit card, you can get this molded piece of plastic that you can, get killer abs. Or, here's this, diet pill, or here's this. We want this instant now. Now, we need it now. We need now. We need now. And in recovery, that doesn't work. It's an unfolding. It's a process. I mean, I'm 12 years into this, and there's still many parts of me that I have to explore yet. And, I'm not comfortable yet. I'm trying to wrestle with it. And that's okay. That's all right. I don't have to sit there and, pop a bottle of something and, guzzle it down or smoke weed or whatever. Because if I do that, that's going to throw a blank on it. I'm not going to understand anything. And, in my recovery, I watched my dad, unfortunately, lose his battle with cancer, and watched that. And I was a victim of an apartment fire where I lost everything that I owned. I mean, I've had some traumatic stuff happen in between May 8th of 2003 and now. And I didn't pick up one drink or one drug. And it was just about being in that moment and learning about it and dealing with the world. And I think that's what the great thing about recovery is. You see things for what they are. You feel pain. You feel sadness. But then you work through it and you feel joy. Sometimes I think that people in recovery sometimes get life more than people who are not, because people chase those things. People chase the good job and, the nice car and the nice white picket fence and the 2.3 kids and the dog or the cat or, all these material things, and people work toward these material goals, but they forget, what's here and what really truly makes you happy and content. And for me, I live in a 1-bedroom apartment, and It's nothing special. And, you know, I got a nice car that I still have to make car payments on, you know, whatever. And I got a few nice things, and that's cool. But the best thing I have is my recovery in me, and being able to share that, and having a platform like Sober Nation to do it for, where people are starting to embrace that message more and more, and embracing what flavor we're bringing. And we're just going to keep bringing it. And Sober Nation, you know, right now we're kind of in a process. I know I'm kind of doing a plug, but I have to, because, you know, if I don't, Tim's probably going to kill me. So I better, you know.
Hi, Tim. Hi, Corey.
I love those guys. It's really funny.
I love those guys too.
What I love where it's going, and, you know, Tim and I and Corey, we have these, how can we take it to the next level? And I think taking the next level is, you know, showcasing people like you who are doing these programs. Yeah, it's not, you know, on prime time and, you know, whatever. Who cares? I mean, you're doing something to pay it forward for the whole recovery community. We're, you know, we are doing the same thing. And it's just, I think right now at this time, I mean, it'd be great for, you know, government bodies and politicians and legislators to really truly understand the nature of addiction and pass laws and things to, you know, make things easier and more humane for people who are in recovery. And it's happening. Mm-hmm. But unless there's this grassroots movement of people like you, like I, like Tim, like Corey, like other people in recovery to come out and share of themselves. One more plug, I'm sorry. There's another organization called I Am Not Anonymous. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Oh, I haven't.
Okay. Real quick thing about them. They're based out of New York, and basically, and I hope they don't kill me, was Tom Goris and Kate Meyer are kind of the brain children of it. Tom he's been, I think, a year or so clean. He was addicted to heroin. Mm-hmm. He came through, became clean and sober, and really, you know, started, you know, becoming an advocate for people who are addicts. Well, Kate is this really awesome portrait photographer, and they do these events where people who are in recovery can take these really cool portraits and be able to tell their stories. And, you know, really awesome. And they are coming to Chicago in mid-August, and I'm going to that, and I'm going to be part of that. So I am really kind of super stoked about that. And, you know, it's organizations like that, or like the Heron Project, or Shatterproof, Amy Winehouse Foundation, the Rosencrantz Foundation. I mean, there's all these really cool organizations that are looking to help break the stigma surrounding addiction and getting that conversation started and getting that ball rolling. And, you know, Sober Nation's kind of, if we're leading the charge, man, I'm in front holding the flag. So.
Well, that's awesome. And I thank you so much for sharing those resources. I haven't heard of a couple of them, especially I Am Not Anonymous. I think that just sounds so fantastic. So, yeah, I'll be in touch with them as well. And I'm glad you're a part of that. You can find Tim writing his cool blogs in SEO format. Search engine optimization, for those of you that are not as proficient on this as we are. But yeah, you can share your email. How can people reach you? Facebook?
Well, I'm on Facebook. It's Tim Powers, and my icon says, you know, be calm and listen to Thin Lizzy, because I'm like probably the biggest Thin Lizzy freak out there. So I mean, they're my favorite band. So they'll see that. And if you click on there, you see a bald guy with tattoos playing a bass. That's me. So
okay.
You can reach me via email there's a couple places you can reach me at email. Okay. My regular Gmail address is tjp5803@gmail.com. You can also reach me if it's more Sober Nation related at timp, that's TIMP, at Stodsy, that's STODZY.com. But check out check out sobernation.com. Articles, treatment resources. If you need help finding treatment for yourself, for a loved one, we have a directory of over 40,000, treatment facilities. Doesn't matter what city you're in, check it out. New articles, blogs going up every day on any subjects about addiction, drugs, treatment options, recovery stories. Whatever whatever you're looking for, we got it. So check out sobernation.com, people.
Right on, and we sure will. We'll put up all those links underneath this show so you can say hi to Tim. Tell him you saw him on the Addiction Show. And if you see him in person, give him a high five for me. Thanks so much, Tim. I think you're really phenomenal, and next time we have you on, I want to see the cat.
Oh yeah, he's sleeping, so I mean, I'm gonna let him sleep. So yeah, next time Theo will probably make a
little guest appearance, maybe a little cameo. I don't know. All right, check out Tim, sobernation.com. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Check us out and subscribe to the Addiction Show.